Just doing an alternate angle here. Thought that'd be fun. Just a random alternate angle. Wow, it's so cool. It seems every animal must stretch. Oh, and then you stop and you can feel the blood running throughout your body. I saw a sort of kind of yeti in the tree near me, and then I'll show you this stretching. This is a place I will stretch again, so I think I found a really good place to use this pentagram in a innocuous, not a fully magical sense, I guess. This tree twisting over here. As I was twisting, it was just a beautiful. I find the trees very encouraging when I'm doing things that are good for me. They tend to lend their support. Look at these guys having sex over here. It's like, ooh, baby. He just loves her so much, he has to grow with his cock up her ass. I love that. All right, crude humor. But still, I don't know why I said cock up ass. Why the sodomy? We should analyze that. So Sigmund Freud, Jung, why are they the same? Easy. One word for you, anima. Right? The repressed female, the repressed male, right? Everything's repressed when you're a homosexual. Or otherwise, the entire Genesis story is about repressing what is truly man, repressing what is truly female, right? The oppression and the repression, as man begets man through two man, right? Adam is a womb in a man that gives birth to what? Adam and Eve is a womb in a man. If Adam is a womb in a man, and Adam and Eve have to be a womb in a man. And if Eve has a womb and Adam has a womb, and Adam's womb is a man, and Eve comes from Adam, and Eve's womb is the womb of a man. As well. So Eve is an Adam and Adam is an Eve. You see, I mean, this is pretty high level shit. That's some witchcraft, man. But it's also kind of using a power, isn't it? Because you start mixing, it almost seems like it's meant to be mixed up, right? You start like, this is an interesting mixture of mentality, and it's been so long, this Christianization of society, which is the harmonization of man. It's amazing. That came down, as I said, the harmonization of man. Teilhard de Chardin was a Jesuit pseudo-anthropologist who wrote about the harmonization of man, right? And he got the idea of the noosphere, of like this catastrophic, catalyzing event where the mind of the earth and the mind of the man would come into total fidelity, and a Superman would be born. Does this sound familiar to anyone? And there, the dream spell cult started by Jose Aguilas. This was actually coming right out of this particular branch, out of the tree of evil, and the like. But you look at this hex of the cross-gendered man from man type of stuff, man on man, that kind of thing. It's a curse against heterosexuality, so it's a curse against man and mother, all that is man and all that is mother. And then you have this vast comparison of like what the world says about man and what man and nature have to say about man, and what children have to say for themselves as opposed to what society has to say to children, and what it has to say about children's say in their own lives. It's a big one. It's been a big question for a long time, but it's amazing how the question has kind of been drowned out. You know, a lot of us went to school, and I guess we thought, like, hey, this is the way the world works. You know, no one was complaining about us getting to live in a house and watch TV and get up and go to school, and nobody's shooting us, and the desks are nice, and the teacher's nice, and nobody's allowed to molest us, and all this sort of stuff. And this is good. And the floors, the antiseptic smelling floors, the linoleum, the awards on the boards that you never really ever even stop to read. It just seems like every school seems to have them. I guess it means someone to the person who got the award, and then there's pictures of the staff maybe and the principal. And there's the word gymnasium over those doors, and then you go down the hall and there's your classroom, and after a while you remember which one it is, even though it's not well marked. And it's like a room in a hospital, really. That's what the halls look like, hospitals. And you were probably born in a hospital, now you're going to school in a hospital. And the ladies have the nice shoes, and teachers always seem to know how to dress like teachers. I don't know how they figure it out, but it's just this wonderful institutionally friendly way. You know, the top button might be undone. Who knows? They wear just the right amount of cheap cologne. Right? These aren't car salesmen. You know, they know the difference between an ounce and a gallon. You know, they don't bathe in this shit. They're smart people. They're educated. They're teaching middle class kids with absolutely no interest in anything they're about to say, and they're training them somehow. Somehow they're going through. No one seems to think they ever learned anything at school, but you were trained. Right? It's not about what you think you didn't learn. It's about what you don't know that you learned. Right? You didn't just learn things you didn't learn. You learned things you don't know you learned. You know, look at your life now when you're out of school or as a so-called adult. Like, look at how much you take in. Look at how much stimulation. Look at how many demands are on you. I mean, they had you for 13 years. You don't think they could have prepared you better? And in a strange sort of way, they prepared you exactly the way you should have been prepared to stress and degrade, right? You didn't have any time for the first 13 years of your life, nor you were ever appraised of what kind of world you live in to examine it. You know, when I start a relationship with someone who's psychotic and I think, oh, okay, now it's time to sort of back away. You had no chance to do that as a child. Your instincts were overridden from the first. At least one of your parents were probably psychotic on a regular basis, just on a cursory level, if not worse, right? Because to live in a society the way we do, it drives everybody psychotic. In fact, it's almost essential that you learn how to be psychotic. You know, the realm of mass psychology and modern psychology is really just the knowledge of psychosis. Anything you hear, I started talking about Jung, and Jung is just taking up with Freud and saying that inside every man is a repressed woman, and inside every woman is a repressed man. It's a transgendered philosophy. Both these men really helped send a lot of people off to war, too. It harmonized everyone and harmonized them. They were always wrapped in an uncharted darkness that could only be charted when it was charted by things that loomed over masses of people. And that's how the power dynamic works. Only the things worth working for are the things that millions of people work for. Nobody works for anything that doesn't work for anyone but them. And it's kind of like an ant mentality, right? It's actually an anti-man mentality. And not as in the man that came before man, but in the mold that fell down on him and infected his brain. Right, so people are doing the work of atmospheric mold. And it's transsexual. Right? The thing I noticed about the Illuminati and transgenderism in the Bible and stuff like that is that answering the question as to, did man do this? You know, and I thought, well, no. Although man has done a good deal now, but an alien didn't do it. And it's not something that is sexual at all. Not even asexual, okay? And that, you know, compared to which you should be consider yourself lucky to be a homosexual. And I think this is a bacterial system. Because it's very much about producing different things. It's just not producing anything that ever seems to be anything but a kind of mockery of human beings. There's a Friends episode where they're watching a speech being given by their friend Ross at an anthropological or paleontological seminar in some country. I don't know. It would probably do me discredit if I remembered it. So they went to maybe the Bahamas or something, and they're all listening to it, only because it's raining outside, because it's so boring and everything. And there's a part where they do a close-up of the characters of Rachel and Joey, who are both gender reversed actors. And Joey is laughing, and Joey is with his date, which is a black paleontologist named something or other, kind of a unisex name. I can't remember what her name was, and somebody out there will know it. And Rachel wants to be with Joey, but she's sitting with someone else. I can't remember. Anyway, and Joey's laughing, and the black woman says to him, "What are you laughing about?" And he's like, "Homo." And the paleontologist is like, "Oh, this is another example of why I shouldn't be with Joey." And part of the episode is her breaking up with Joey, and Joey's laughing about the homo, right? Right? Oh, that's silly that he's laughing at the homo. It's not meant to be laughed at, right? What's so funny about it being saying homo? That's the technical word, right? And then Rachel's laughing, and Joey's like, "Homo?" She's like, "No, erectus," because they have their similar mentality, and they're considered low IQ in the show. In the show, they're less educated. They're sort of lower IQ in some respects, right? Rachel is sort of a shoot from the hip, scrapper that went to school but clearly didn't spend a lot of time studying, mostly just sort of fucking around, literally, while she was there and spending her daddy's money. This is the character. But the laugh is actually on the viewer, because the whole Homo erectus thing is a joke. It has to do with the homosexualization of man, the hominization of man. That they fit the word homo right into the beginning of Homo sapiens, just like they fit it right into the beginning of the Bible. Just like it's fit in everywhere. Right? It's not about monotheism, it's about homo monotheism. It's a bacterial religion. It's a mold spore that comes down from the sky. And at some time, I'm guessing, maybe the conditions on the earth changed and this mold started falling, and it built up and accreted over a long period of time. So I've answered the question, how did the world become evil? I think there was a very slow accretion of a mold-like intelligence prior to it starting to proliferate enough that it could start to control the human species. And chemtrails are a part of that. And what people say about devils and Satan and fallen angels and stuff is really just they are trapped in the atmosphere, right? And they have an extremely strong taste for something that they get off of the Son of Man. So that's my take on the world. And that's why there's such a strange non-sexuality to what I call demonic energies in our societies. And that people's sexuality, when it's not heterosexual, is a lot like their personality. It's a very strong and rigid, come natural or born sheath and a protective part of their immune system to protect them from something that's invaded them. And it's produced this the way the body would produce an antibody. Homosexuality is an antibody, basically, to a bacterial invasion of this mold, which seeks to homosexualize the world. So it's not just training people what to do, it's hurting them in specific ways to get the system to become sterilized, which is what homosexuality is. It's a psychological sterilization. And no one's been able to explain this and the fascination of cults with homosexuality in a way that relates to our physical environment, and how neurolinguistics and magic and religion have been used against human beings who are, in a sense, at best forced into a subconscious way of life, where they become more acutely confronted with the types of threats, if not to their immune system proper, which I think remains supreme to these invasive forces, nonetheless harried as much as possible, as they frequently conduct their lives as though they live in a universe that in fact occupies, in a great sense, a very small level of the Earth's mind and their total mind proper, that is demanding more and more of their labor. And the more time they spend there, Of course, the more time they've gotten used to it, and the sicker they get. And then next thing you know, they're dropping their own mold spores out of the sky, and they need this system to do that for them as much as they need to continue to find whatever they need to fill their narcotic addictions, which they feel they need to sacrifice more of their labor, even when they're getting married, in order to satisfy.